Hello everyone, welcome to today's session, which is on Cognitive Science Approach to Education Part 2. The objectives of today's lesson are to understand cognitive science perspective, to learn about each discipline that constitute cognitive science perspective, and to find out why we need cognitive science approach to education. So far we have discussed what the terms cognitive, cognition and cognitive science stand for, and we have also got a historical overview, current developments and contributions of cognitive science in various fields. Now we will move to the section that deals with cognitive science perspective. Would any one of you like to tell me the meaning of the word perspective?
I think it means outlook, approach or point of view.
Yes, what she said is correct. So we are going to learn what the term cognitive science perspective, in other words, what we mean by adopting cognitive science approach to education. For this, we first need to know what aspects are included in this perspective. As we have discussed earlier, cognitive science is an interdisciplinary approach, and the major disciplines involved in cognitive science are philosophy, psychology, linguistics, computer science, neuroscience and social science. We can group these disciplines in the following way. Fields that build cognitive science perspective are behavioral and brain sciences, including psycholinguistics, neuroscience and cognitive psychology. Social sciences, including anthropology, sociology and sociolinguistics. Formal disciplines, including logic, computer science, linguistics and artificial intelligence. And finally, philosophy of the mind. In short, we can define cognitive science as an interdisciplinary attempt to understand the mind. In this sense, cognitive science perspective is a collaborative or joint effort among research done in various fields. Let's look at a figure which would help us to understand the meeting point of all this discipline that comprise cognitive science perspective.
Can you please explain what is meant by philosophy of mind?
Sure. Each discipline that we have seen a while back in the diagram will be explained briefly. We will first begin with a discipline called social sciences. Social factor is an important element in education and language development. Social aspect serves as a crucial influence on learning. Let's think for a moment how our languages are shaped by society and its norms or rules. When we learn a language, we are expected to follow its standards or rules. We need to keep in mind various aspects while talking to an individual or in a group. For example, the tone or the way we speak, manner, topic, people involved, etc. Apart from these things, how to speak appropriately is also bound by aspects like attitudes, values and motivation the speaker has regarding the language and its uses. Thus, for language development to happen, the engagement of language in social life has a positive effect. Perhaps, failure to adequately interact in a social situation would hamper language development. Students will be discouraged from participating, and this could result in opportunities being missed for learning. However, teachers can provide a rich environment for learning, and the teacher and peers as they form important sources of learning and positive feedback. Now let's look into the neuroscientific discipline. The general study of the brain and the endocrine system is called neuroscience. Recent times have seen tremendous advances in our understanding of the brain. The goal of cognitive neuroscience is to explain the physiological processes that underlie specific cognitive functions. Advancements in neuroimaging allows us to identify the underlying mental processes and how they influence our behavior and emotion. Neuroscientists employ a wide variety of machines to measure the performance of the brain at work. These include PET scanners, CAT scanners, EEG test, MRI and fMRI tests. Let's have a quick glance at EEG test image. EEG is a medical test used to measure the electrical activity of the brain while performing a task. And it also diagnoses a number of conditions including epilepsy, sleep disorders and brain tumors.
I would like to know which area of the brain are active when we are learning something.
Alright, let's take the instance of language learning. You all might have heard that different parts of the brain are involved in performing different functions. The rise of cognitive science has led to important advances in understanding the brain mechanism of perception, attention, memory, and other cognitive processes. So let's look at another interesting image that shows different parts of the brain engaged in performing different activities. Research suggests that the anterior cingulate cortex is involved in selective attention and social interactions. Regions within the prefrontal cortex are implicated in motivation or willingness, and attention control, that is, individuals' willingness to focus and refocus on a particular task. The amygdala is involved in emotional stress and learning. Finally, the hippocampus is involved in learning and memory or ability to remember and recollect. These areas of the brain seem most active during learning. However, the other areas of the brain have active roles to play as well during the process of learning. Emotion and aesthetics. When it comes to learning, emotion and aesthetics play a significant role. Emotion are thought to be related to activity in brain areas that direct our attention, motivate our behavior, and determine the significance of what is going on around us. We have learned that cognition refers to all mental processes. The study of neural bases of non-emotional and emotional processes emerged as two separate fields: cognitive neuroscience and affective neuroscience. However, in current research, these two types of processes often involve overlap to study neural and mental mechanisms comprehensively.
Could you explain the term affective neuroscience?
Sure. Affective neuroscience is the study of the neural mechanism of emotion. This interdisciplinary field combines neuroscience with the physiological study of personality, emotion, and mood. Recently, research in the field of affective neuroscience has studied the role of emotion and learning. Deep emotional attachment to a subject area allows a deeper understanding of the material, and therefore, learning occurs and lasts longer. While reading, the emotions one is feeling in comparison to the emotions being portrayed in the context affects one's comprehension. Therefore, a student's emotion plays a big role during the learning process. Neuroimaging studies have demonstrated that the same area of the brain being activated when one is feeling disgust is also activated when one observes another person feeling disgust. Thus, the teacher's facial expression can play a critical role in students' language acquisition. Showing a fearful facial expression when reading passages that contain fearful tones facilitates students' learning of the meaning of certain vocabulary and comprehension of the passage. The other important aspects is aesthetics. One of the first approaches to combine neuroscience and aesthetic experience resulting in neuroaesthetics was accomplished by Professor V.S. Ramchandran, a neuroscientist and professor at University of California, San Diego. Neuroaesthetics results from a combination of single areas of cognitive neuroscience like attention, perception, emotion, and decision making. Aesthetics and learning is an emerging research area. Studies have shown that aesthetics do play an important role of a facilitator in learning. For example, research explored the practical implication of musical pleasure to facilitate learning. Subjects listened to music as they performed a task. It was concluded that musical pleasure was able to influence task performance in a positive way. Another example is from a study that provides first experimental evidence that stylistic devices such as meter and rhyme influence aesthetics and emotional responses while reading poetry. The next area of this multidisciplinary approach is formal discipline. Formal discipline includes computer science, artificial intelligence, and linguistics or scientific study of language. Let us take an example of how children acquire sounds, words, and structures of their mother tongue or first language. Language acquisition research is concerned with questions of what children know, when they learn, and how they learn it. In today's world, computational approaches to language learning have become increasingly popular. But what does computational linguistics stand for?
It means the use of computers, softwares, storage devices, etc.
Yes, what she said is correct. I have a question. What do we mean by simulation?
Simulation means replicating the original situation.
Okay, next.
So computer simulation means imitating the original situation using computer?
You have explained the term very well. Excellent. So computational research simulates the process of learning language by children. It tells us the possible or probable mechanism involved in human language acquisition, which can help us to develop better learning models and techniques. The next area that is involved in cognitive science perspective is philosophy of mind. It studies the relationship between mind and brain, consciousness or awareness, and how we see the world. But first, let's understand the term philosophy. Would any one of you like to share your concept or the meaning of the term philosophy?
It is the study about knowledge, truth, nature, and meaning of life.
Yes, you're right. Philosophy is the study of the fundamental problems concerning issues like existence, reality, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. Philosophical methods include questioning, critical discussion, rational argument, and systematic presentation. The word philosophy comes from the Greek words philo means love and sophos means wisdom. So it literally means love for wisdom. So what does philosophy of the mind represent? Philosophy of the mind is a branch of philosophy that is concerned with the nature of mental phenomena in general and the role of consciousness, sensation, perception, concepts, reasoning, intention, beliefs, etc. It deals with issues like free will, personal identity, mind-body problem, etc. The mind-body problem, that is, the relationship of the mind to the body, is commonly seen as one key issue in philosophy. In other words, philosophy of mind studies the nature of the mind, mental events, functions, properties, consciousness, and their relationship with the physical body, particularly the brain. Mind and body. The central issue in philosophy of mind is the mind-body problem, that is the relationship of mind to the body. And the challenge is to explain how a supposedly non-material mind can influence a material body and vice versa. So according to this discipline, every student or learner has immense potential or capability in them. All learners have the capability to give excellent performance. But still, not all learners become successful equally. For example, when a student is learning a language, say English, his or her language ability in English might not be as good as his mother tongue. It is said that an individual's potential to learn or to do something can change over time. Just because one cannot find ways to utilize a person's potential at a particular moment, it does not mean that the potential cannot be fully engaged or even acquired at a later time. Rather than being fixed, potentials may vary over time. This means, in order to help students to make use of their full potential, the teacher will have to figure out what the appropriate training would be for an individual. To summarize, philosophical approaches to learning suggest that failure to develop ability or improve performance reflects failure to overcome the issues that hinder growth. and failure to cultivate individuals' existing and future potential. And it is surely not insufficiency of a student's ability to learn. You might have wondered why exactly we need to know cognitive science and cognitive science approach, and how we can precisely relate it to education. Cognitive approach resulted as a reaction against behaviorism. The goal of the behaviorist education is to bring about observable changes in behavior. Here, the focus of learning is on the content with a subject-centered approach. Behaviorism explained the process of learning while not taking into account the importance of mental events. In other words, actions like thinking and emotion or feeling and sentiments of the learners, since these aspects could not be overtly assessed. However, the fundamental element in cognitive approach is that it studies the processes or activities that happen inside the mind of an individual. We definitely cannot overlook the importance of the mind and its processes while we are talking of learning or education. Cognitive approach attempts to go beyond the behaviorist approach by attempting to explain how humans reason, make decisions, why they make errors, and how they remember and forget. In other words, things that are very much part of the human experience but cannot be explained by explicit observable behavior alone. Let's think of a classroom situation. You may have noticed that many students find it difficult to learn the kind of knowledge and thinking required by high school courses such as maths, science, physics, chemistry, biology, or other complex subjects. Thus, they often end up with misconception, fragmented incomplete knowledge, and inadequate problem-solving skill. Most teachers or textbook authors approach their teaching methods with good knowledge in their field of expertise, but there is little awareness of the underlying thought processes. In such a situation, cognitive approach would help. A large body of research in cognition exists in which simple techniques have been used to understand the mechanisms underlying learning, retention, and transfer. The hallmark or the uniqueness of cognitive science is that it draws on the methods of branches like philosophy, psychology, linguistics, computer science, neuroscience, and social science. Hence, what we get is a rich and a broad approach to education which contains all the encompassing views to learning. Moreover, adopting this approach enables to capitalize on the variety and depth of the different component disciplines that cognitive science offers. Since learning is a multifaceted construct, the multidisciplinary approach available with cognitive science perspective would provide a more holistic approach to address the phenomena of learning. Recent research emerging from cognitive science on how people learn, remember, and think about information has important implications to all educators. It points to the importance of revisiting what we teach, how we teach, and how we assess student learning. Strategies for the classroom. Cognitive approach claims that learners initially decode, analyze, store, process, and then produce or perform. Learning happens in 4 cognitive stages: attention, encoding, storage, and retrieval. Hence, we could plan our lessons or can keep these stages in mind while interacting with learners. Here are some of the strategies that are guided by cognitive science approach which teachers can adopt in class. Teachers need to capture attention in order to keep information in working memory long enough to be processed by learners. Capturing and keeping that attention every day in every class can be quite challenging. Some ideas that teachers can adopt, like posing questions, monitoring student behavior, body posture, and specifying main points. For example, an outline given to students tells students what is the most important thing to attend to, and relating material to the world of the student. Connecting material to be learned to the real world events and the typical interest of adolescents can both capture and maintain attention. And also by helping students plan for assessment, like telling students how you will assess them, would definitely help the learners. Recent research suggests that these steps are effective in helping students to store, encode, and apply information. To conclude, it can be said that having a clearer and deeper understanding of how our students learn and remember could have a significant impact on how we design our daily classes. We will discuss in details the pedagogical implication of cognitive science in our next session.